You've prayed, listened, and waited, only to be met with what feels like total silence from heaven. But what if that silence isn't inaction? Isaiah chapter 64 says God actively works for those who wait for him. In the Bible, silence is more than an absence of sound. It's a complex spiritual posture of reflection or peace. Sometimes, silence is a posture of awe before God's majesty, a recognition that he is in control. Next, we'll see why silence happens, what God is doing in it, and how it forges unbreakable trust. First, the foundational truth to hold on to in this season: God has not left you. Hebrews chapter 13 verse 5 promises he will never forsake you. Scripture does not ignore the ache of feeling unheard. It affirms that even when heaven seems mute, God knows your struggle. This brings up a critical question. If God is always present and aware of our pain, why would a loving father choose to be silent? This pattern isn't new. Abraham waited 25 years for his promised son. Joseph waited years in slavery and prison. In each case, the waiting was a period designed to stretch faith and build absolute reliance on God's character, not just his answers. These patterns show that silence often precedes a profound revelation. So what is God trying to reveal in our waiting? The first reason for silence is often divine timing. What looks like a delay from our view might be divine protection from his. Isaiah chapter 55 states, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways." This is a call to trust a higher, more complete plan. When God is silent, he may be working on factors we cannot see, aligning circumstances for a blessing far greater than what we asked for. This gap between our timing and God's is where patience is forged. Patience is not passive waiting, it is active endurance fueled by faith. Hebrews tells us to imitate those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Patience is the bridge to his perfect timing. So God's timing and our patience are the mechanisms at play. But what does this look like in a human life? Let's turn to a powerful example. No story demonstrates divine silence amidst suffering better than Job. After losing everything, he sits in anguish, and God is silent. Interestingly, the most helpful thing Job's friends first did was sit with him in silence for 7 days, honoring his grief. When God finally speaks, he doesn't explain why. Instead, he reveals his own power, shifting Job's view from his problem to God's authority. Job's story echoes the promise of Psalm chapter 30 verse 5. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Silence is temporary. These stories give us hope, but we must also address the nuances. Is God's silence always about preparation for a future blessing? Remember our earlier question, why does God choose to be silent? Sometimes the reason is more complex than just timing. It might not be the right time, we may not be listening, or the silence itself is the answer testing our faith in his goodness. We must also separate unanswered prayer from God's silence. No or wait are answers, even if they aren't the ones we hoped for. Galatians chapter 6 verse 9 says at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Patience is the bridge to that proper time. So silence can be for preparation, perspective, or our posture. How do we hold all of this together and move forward in faith? Let's connect the dots. God acts for those who wait, and his timing is not our timing. This means silence is not empty space, it's God's workshop. God isn't obligated to speak, yet he promises to. When he is quiet, it's because he is planning and preparing. Silence is divine strategy. This period of divine strategy builds our character. It forces us to trust in his nature when we can't see his hand, which is the definition of faith. Therefore, perceived silence is not a rejection. It is an invitation to go deeper, strengthen your relationship, and learn to hear him in new ways. Seasons of silence are not evidence of God's absence, but opportunities for the deepest growth, where belief is transformed into profound trust. So what is our role? Press into him with honesty. Pouring out your heart, even in frustration, is a profound act of faith that he is there. Hold on to the promise that your waiting is not in vain. He is working, he is present, and in his time the silence will break. Trust the process, cultivate patience, because in Scripture, God's silence is never the end of the story.